The hull of the derelict alien scout ship still smoldered as Commander Ilara Chen moved her gloved hand across its strange metallic surface. Blood, iridescent blue and viscous, floated in globules around the extraction team. The dead pilot's six-limbed corpse had been carefully removed for study, but it was the ship's navigation charts that made Chen's blood run cold. "They weren't supposed to find us for decades," whispered Dr. Kapoor, the quantum physicist who'd been hastily dispatched to the recovery site. That was the projection. Chen's gaze lingered on the holographic star map projected from the alien craft's still-functioning navigation system. The patterns of light showed Earth prominently marked, designated in alien script that the AI translators had rendered as Class C acquisition target. "Someone should tell the Jokeri that humans don't appreciate being classified," Chen said, her voice steady despite the implications. She'd been captaining the UES Defiant, mankind's first and only true warship, for just under 11 months. Now it seemed the experimental vessel would face its trial by fire far sooner than anyone had anticipated. For 3 millennia, the Jokeri hegemony had methodically conquered or subjugated nearly every sentient species in the Orion Arm. Their biological superiority was unquestioned. 6-limbed telepathic beings with lifespans measured in centuries and technology that seemed to border on the mystical. Their towering battlecruisers, known as world breakers, had crushed resistance across 1,000 star systems, leaving broken civilizations and harvested worlds in their wake. Earth, isolated on the galactic fringe, had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel when the hegemony's advanced scout, now a wreck floating in the asteroid belt, detected human transmissions. By Jokeri standards, humans were primitive, fragile, and hopelessly outmatched, not even worth the honor of formal conquest. "Their battle group will reach our orbit in 72 hours, Dr. Kapoor said, his fingers manipulating the alien interface with surprising dexterity. 5 ships, mid-sized formation. Chen tapped her neural implant, establishing a direct link to Earth's Unified Defense Command. "This is Chen. The intelligence is confirmed. Request immediate deployment authorization for the Defiant." The response came swiftly from Admiral Nakamura himself. "Authorization granted, Commander. Diplomatic protocols are primary. We cannot engage in hostilities. Buy us time for contact and possible negotiation." Chen closed the channel, her expression grim. She turned to Kapoor, who was still absorbed in the alien data. "What else can you tell me about this battle group?" Kapoor glanced up, the holographic light painting his face in ethereal blue. "The recovered data crystals show they've classified Earth as a Class C protectorate, destined for resource extraction. And," he hesitated, "possible experimentation." Back aboard the Defiant, Chen slammed her fist against the briefing room table. The gathered officers, representing Earth's finest military minds, fell silent at her uncharacteristic display of emotion. "Lieutenant Ramirez," Chen nodded to her weapons officer. "Your assessment." Ramirez leaned forward, her dark eyes reflecting the red glow of the tactical display. "I've analyzed their approach vector against known contact protocols." She projected a holographic comparison. "This isn't a diplomatic formation, Commander. Their weapon systems are in active configuration. They're not coming to talk," Chen concluded. "They're coming to claim." She studied the projection, the alien formation burning like a crimson wound against the backdrop of their solar system. Earth had only just begun to reach for the stars, and already the galaxy was reaching back, with 6 arms and crushing intent. "Diplomatic protocols be damned," Chen said finally. "Prep the NOVA drive. If the Jokeri want Earth, they'll have to come through us first." Around the table, her crew exchanged glances, fear mingled with determination. They all understood what facing the hegemony meant. Nobody said it, but everyone knew this was likely a one-way mission. Chen stood, straightening her uniform. "Departure in 30 minutes. We meet them at Neptune's orbit." As her officers filed out, Chen remained alone with the alien star chart, studying the vast swath of conquered systems, Soon, humanity would either join that list or rewrite it entirely. This ship wasn't designed to commit suicide. Chief Engineer Takahashi muttered as he bypassed safety protocols on the NOVA drive. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, overriding warnings that flashed angry red against the engineering bay's dim lighting. The UES Defiant had never been meant to face alien warships. Designed as humanity's first deep space military vessel, it incorporated experimental technologies still not fully understood: quantum-entangled communications, gravitational lensing shields, and most importantly, the theoretical weapon Takahashi was now arming. No one, not even its designers, could predict what would happen if the NOVA drive were fully activated beyond its propulsion parameters. "Is that why you volunteered, Takahashi?" Chen asked, watching holographic schematics of alien vessels rotate above the war table. The entire bridge crew had signed DNA-encrypted waivers, acknowledging their mission's probable one-way nature. "I volunteered because I helped build this damned ship," Takahashi replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "If anyone's going to blow it up properly, it's going to be me." As Commander Chen assembled her crew, a mixture of hardened space veterans and brilliant but untested specialists, she realized their only hope lay in the human capacity for unconventional thinking. The Jokerii might possess overwhelming technological superiority, but historical records showed they had conquered through brute force and intimidation, not innovation or adaptability. In the makeshift lab they'd established in Cargo Bay 3, Dr. Sanjay Kapoor injected himself with another stimulant. Sleep wasn't an option now. Dark circles ringed his eyes as he gestured toward neural scans recovered from the scout ship. "Look at these brainwave patterns," he explained, projecting intricate, interwoven lines. "Their telepathy operates on a shared frequency, almost like a biological quantum network. But it might be their greatest weakness." He magnified one portion of the scan. A species that evolved with shared consciousness would have no concept of deception or misdirection. They literally cannot comprehend lying. Chen contemplated this. "You're saying we can't outgun them, but we might be able to trick them." "Precisely." Kapoor nodded. "They've never needed to develop countermeasures against deception." Earth's United Military Council reluctantly authorized Chen to engage with extreme prejudice, knowing humanity's survival depended on this single ship. The final communication from Earth contained only a simple message: by any means necessary. The Defiant departed Earth under cover of a meteor shower, accelerating to intercept the Jokerii battle group near Neptune's orbit. They'd broadcast false signals to make it appear as though they were merely a primitive scientific vessel on a routine survey mission. "Contact in 3 minutes," Lieutenant Commander Jackson announced from Tactical. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but anticipation. A former Special Forces operator, Jackson had once confided to Chen that he'd joined the Space Corps because he believed humanity's true threats would come from beyond the stars. On the view screen, Neptune's swirling azure surface provided a dramatic backdrop for what would either be humanity's finest hour or its last stand. When the massive alien ships appeared, materializing like ghostly cathedrals against the gas giant, the humans experienced their first taste of Jokerii telepathic assault, a wave of terror and submission that instantly incapacitated half the crew. Chen gripped her command chair as images flooded her mind. Earth burning, humanity enslaved, inevitability, surrender, worship. "Get out of my head," she snarled, drawing blood as her nails dug into her palms. Around her, several other officers remained functional. Takahashi, Dr. Wong at the science station, Jackson at Tactical, all grimly resistant to the psychic onslaught. The battle began with the Defiant seemingly outmatched in every way, taking devastating hits within seconds. Warning klaxons blared as hull integrity dropped to critical levels. "Now," Chen ordered, a feral smile spreading across her face. "Let's show these 6-armed bastards how humans fight when we've got nothing to lose." She keyed the tactical frequency. "Initiate operation, Trojan horse. Overlord Seal Vorn lounged in his command pod, 6 limbs splayed in relaxed disdain as he observed the approaching human vessel through the telepathic network. His second-in-command transmitted amusement. This primitive craft is all Earth could muster. The Hegemony Battle Group's weapons officers didn't even request permission to engage primary systems. This would be a simple demonstration of power, an efficient subjugation, barely worth recording in the archives. The Defiant's initial weapons barrage struck the lead Jacquerie cruiser, energy dissipating harmlessly against quantum shields. The alien's telepathic communications rippled with something approximating laughter. "Disruptor ready," Dr. Maya Wong announced on the Defiant's bridge, her fingers dancing across controls of a device that no one, not even Commander Chen, fully understood until this moment. Blood trickled from her nose as she countered the alien psychic assault through sheer force of will. "If this works, we'll have 8 seconds. If it doesn't..." She left the sentence unfinished. "Do it," Chen ordered. The quantum resonance disruptor activated with a subsonic pulse that made every human aboard feel as though their atoms were trying to vibrate apart. For the Jacquerie, the effect was catastrophic. Localized pockets of altered physics temporarily severed their telepathic network. For the first time in their history of conquest, the Jacquerie experienced something they'd never encountered: confusion and isolation. On the command ship, Overlord Seal Vorn screamed as his mind, accustomed to the constant chorus of thousands of connected consciousnesses, suddenly went silent. His 6 limbs spasmed in panic. "Now," Chen barked. "Full thrusters." The Defiant executed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship its size. Explosive bolts detonated across its hull, revealing the clunky exterior for what it was: an elaborate deception. The ship's true form emerged as ablative armor fell away, exposing the sleek, angular predator with experimental gravitational drives that defied conventional physics. "Target their smallest vessel," Jackson called out, using Neptune's magnetic field as an amplifier. Now, the Defiant launched targeted EMP strikes against the smallest Jacquerie vessel. The alien ship's shields failed unexpectedly, an outcome the Hegemony had never experienced in combat. The Defiant's kinetic railguns tore through the unprotected hull, the rounds accelerated to near-relativistic speeds. Across the Jacquerie network, a telepathic scream echoed as hundreds of alien minds were violently extinguished. For the first time in over 700 years, a Hegemony warship was critically damaged, atmosphere venting into space along with the bodies of its crew. "Direct hit," Jackson reported, unable to keep triumph from his voice. "Enemy vessel crippled, sir." On the main view screen, the damaged Jacquerie ship listed to one side, its elegant crystalline architecture now fractured and leaking atmosphere. It was a sight unprecedented in modern galactic history: a Hegemony vessel, bleeding. Overlord Seal Vorn, recovering from the telepathic disruption, roared an order that required no translation: immediate annihilation of the human vessel. 5 Jacquerie cruisers aligned their primary weapons, energy buildup suggesting planet-killing power levels. "They're targeting us with everything they've got," Ramirez warned, her voice steady despite the imminent threat. "Energy readings off the charts." "NOVA status," Chen demanded, as warning systems screamed imminent destruction. "Theoretically functional," Takahashi replied, his voice eerily calm. "No guarantees we survive the jump." "Beats certain death," Chen responded. Then to the entire crew, "Brace for translocation." As overwhelming firepower converged on the Defiant, Chen ordered emergency NOVA drive activation, not to attack, but to execute a short-range translocation that no human ship had ever attempted inside a gravity well. The Defiant vanished in a flash of impossible light, the alien energy weapons converging on empty space. Quantum particles scattered where the ship had been, creating a cascade of false positives on Jacquerie sensors. When the Defiant reappeared seconds later, the bridge crew was bleeding from eyes and ears, but alive, and impossibly positioned inside the shields of the Hegemony's command vessel, weapons locked on Overlord Sylvorn's command pod. "Send our regards from Earth," Chen said, and opened fire. Impossible. Overlord Sylvorn's mental projection reverberated through what remained of the Jacquerie telepathic network. The appearance of the Defiant inside his flagship's shields violated every known principle of space warfare. It was a suicidal position. The human ship now trapped within the enemy's defensive envelope, surrounded by the Hegemony's most powerful weapons. But it was exactly where Commander Chen wanted to be. "All weapons, maximum yield, point-blank range," Chen ordered, voice hoarse from screaming during the NOVA jump. "Target their command systems first, then propulsion." The Defiant unleashed its full arsenal against the flagship's exposed hull. Human kinetic weapons, while primitive by Jacquerie standards, proved devastatingly effective at this proximity. Railgun rounds punched through ceremonial bulkheads never designed to face internal attack. The alien vessel shuddered as critical systems failed, internal explosions visible through its crystalline viewport sections. On the Defiant's bridge, Dr. Kapoor had abandoned his station, crawling through sparking wreckage to reach the main sensor array. "Keep them busy," he shouted over the din of battle. "The ship is gathering data." The Defiant's most powerful weapon wasn't its firepower. It was the data-gathering systems silently mapping every frequency, shield harmonic, and energy signature of the Jacquerie technology. Kapoor and his team worked frantically, blood streaming from their ears as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. "The patterns," he muttered, watching quantum signatures resolve on his tablet. "They're shields. They're not random. They operate on predictable quantum frequencies." Through the view screen, Chen watched Overlord Sylvorn rise from his command pod, all 6 limbs extended in what could only be rage. The alien's telepathic assault battered against her mind. Images of torture, subjugation, extinction, as he ordered his crippled ship to ram the human vessel in a final act of defiance. "Another jump," Chen ordered, feeling blood vessels burst in her left eye. "Get us to the next target." Chief Engineer Takahashi, his uniform scorched and arm hanging at an unnatural angle, shook his head. "No VA drives destabilizing. One more jump will tear us apart at the subatomic level." He looked up, meeting Chen's gaze. "We'd be literal atoms scattered across space." With power systems failing and crew members dying at their stations, Chen made a fateful decision. Rather than retreat, she ordered the Defiant to accelerate directly toward the most heavily armed Jacquerie dreadnought still operational. "They'll vaporize us," Jackson warned, blood streaking his tactical display. "No, they won't," Chen replied. "Because they've never faced an enemy that would sacrifice themselves." The confused alien commanders, having never encountered such seemingly irrational behavior, hesitated just long enough for the Defiant to deliver its devastating payload, not explosives, but an adaptive virus created by the ship's eye. The quantum code, transmitted on frequencies harvested from the Jacquerie's own shields, began to infect their command systems. On the main view screen, they watched alien vessels lose control, weapons systems firing randomly, some turning against their own ships. A massive explosion rocked the Defiant, destroying its primary drive section. Atmosphere vented into space, emergency bulkheads slamming down throughout the ship. "We've lost decks 4 through 7, reported Lieutenant Coleman, the only surviving communications officer. "Hull integrity at 17%. Evacuation protocol Alpha," Chen ordered as the ship began to break apart around them. "All personnel to the core module." The Jacquerie vessels, their sensors detecting the Defiant's imminent destruction, converged to finish off the crippled human ship, exactly as Chen had predicted. "They think they've won," she said, helping a wounded Dr. Wong into the armored escape pod at the center of the Defiant. "Let's show them how wrong they are." As the remaining crew sealed themselves in the heavily shielded core module, Chen activated the final phase of her desperate plan, a strategy so audacious that she hadn't dared share it with Earth Command. Primitive animals, High Captain Zekmera transmitted to the remaining Jokeri warships as they formed a firing circle around the Defiant's drifting hulk. The aliens' shared consciousness rippled with contempt as they prepared to vaporize the remnants of humanity's pathetic resistance. "Let us end this insignificant species' delusions off." His transmission cut short as tactical sensors detected new anomalies. From Earth's direction, a swarm of small, unarmed civilian vessels approached at maximum acceleration. Hundreds of them, piloted by humans of all ages and backgrounds, scientists, teachers, retired military personnel, even teenagers who'd volunteered despite their parents' desperate objections. Are they insane? Zekmera's confusion spread through the telepathic network. These aren't military craft. They have no weapons, no shields. The Jokeri paused, genuinely baffled. Are humans so primitive they would sacrifice their civilians in some futile symbolic gesture? Inside the command shuttle leading the civilian armada, Dr. Sofia Martinez watched her daughter's wedding ring float in zero gravity before her. "For Emily," she whispered, activating the quantum entanglement node. Technology Earth had secretly developed, but kept off all official records. Similar devices activated across the civilian fleet. When the Jokeri opened fire, destroying the shuttles with contemptuous ease, they unwittingly triggered humanity's trap. Each destroyed vessel released clouds of microscopic particles that adhered to the alien hulls, quantum entangled nanites designed to penetrate their shields specifically. Within the Defiant's armored core module, the surviving crew executed the riskiest phase of Chen's plan. Dr. Wong, barely conscious and kept alive by emergency medical systems, calibrated her resonance disruptor one final time. "Entanglement network detected," she murmured, blood bubbling at her lips. "Signal strength at 87%. "Do it," Chen ordered, gripping the scientist's hand. The amplified resonance wave propagated through the entanglement network, creating a localized field that not only blocked Jokeri telepathy, but painfully reversed it. For the first time in their evolutionary history, the connected minds of the hegemony experienced something they had no defense against: true isolation, followed by a tsunami of distinctly human emotions: fear, rage, hope, defiance, and most alien of all to the Jokeri hive mind, individuality. Across the alien fleet, six-limbed bodies convulsed as unfamiliar neural pathways fired. Several Jokeri pilots, driven temporarily insane by the emotional onslaught, screamed in frequencies that shattered crystalline control surfaces. Two dreadnoughts broke formation, colliding catastrophically, their antimatter containment fields failing simultaneously. "Now," Chen shouted into her tactical comm. "Boarding teams go." Lieutenant Commander Jackson, leading 30 surviving crew members in experimental combat suits, launched from concealed positions in the Defiant's debris field. Unlike the methodical, coordinated hegemony warriors, the human soldiers fought with unpredictable ferocity and adaptability, taking impossible risks, ignoring injuries, sacrificing themselves to advance the mission. Inside the damaged Jokeri flagship, Jackson encountered Overlord Silvorn attempting to reach an escape pod. The alien commander, twice Jackson's size and armed with ceremonial energy blades on 4 of his 6 limbs, projected terror directly into the human's mind. "That won't work on me," Jackson said through gritted teeth, advancing despite hemorrhaging from his ears. "Some humans are just naturally stubborn assholes." The battle was brief, brutal, and decisive. When Jackson's team secured the Overlord, bound in his own ceremonial restraints, they had captured a strategic prize beyond imagination. But their victory would be short-lived. The remaining Jokeri vessels, though psychologically shattered, still possessed overwhelming firepower. As they regrouped, targeting systems locked on both the Defiant's core module and Earth itself, Chen watched planet-killing weapons charge, knowing they had perhaps 30 seconds before humanity's homeworld was reduced to molten slag. "Dr. Takahashi," she said quietly to the chief engineer, whose one remaining functional arm worked feverishly at a control panel. Tell me the NOVA emergency protocol is ready. It's ready, he confirmed, voice eerily calm. But I should remind you that the Theoretical Applications Committee labeled this particular scenario as probable suicide, followed by several pages of equations demonstrating that probable meant absolute certainty. Chen looked around at her surviving crew, their faces illuminated by emergency lighting. No one looked away. No one objected. Humanity wasn't meant to die today, she said simply, and activated the protocol. The NOVA drive was never just a propulsion system. Takahashi explained to the wounded crew members gathered in the core module's emergency medical bay. Blood dripped from the stump of his amputated arm as medical nanites sealed the wound. It was humanity's desperate attempt to create a weapon of last resort. Outside, the Jokeri warships finished charging their planet killers, energy buildups reaching critical thresholds. They had no reason to hurry. Their victory was assured. The failing drive core, ejected from the Defiance remains on a precisely calculated trajectory, drifted toward the center of the alien formation. Inside it, quantum equations resolved toward infinity as Takahashi remotely triggered the cascade failure sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality tore open. The quantum matrix that allowed for translocation began to invert, creating a rapidly expanding bubble of altered spacetime. At its edge, fundamental forces simply ceased to function as humans understood them. The effect was catastrophic beyond even the theoretical models. 3 Jokeri warships caught in the bubble's initial expansion didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist. Their matter converted into energy that fueled further expansion. The remaining hegemony vessels attempted to flee, but the NOVA effect disrupted their drive systems, leaving them drifting helplessly as secondary explosions consumed them from within. On Earth, military analysts watched in stunned silence as the NOVA effect's energy signature took visible shape in space, the expanding destruction forming a perfect outline of a phoenix, wings spread in defiance across half the solar system. Later, scientists would determine this was no coincidence, but a result of Dr. Kapoor encoding human symbolism directly into the quantum matrix, his final act before dying at his station. In low Earth orbit, civilian monitoring stations reported the impossible. The Jokeri threat had been neutralized. Spontaneous celebrations erupted across the planet, but in the secure bunker beneath the Himalayas where Earth's unified military command had relocated, the mood remained grim. "We've received a transmission from Commander Chen," Admiral Nakamura announced to the assembled generals. "The Defiance core module survived. They've captured Overlord Sealvorn." A murmur passed through the room, equal parts disbelief and hope. Aboard the core module, now being towed back to Earth by emergency rescue vessels, Chen sat across from the bound Jokeri Overlord. The alien's 6 limbs were secured with their own ceremonial restraints, and Dr. Wang's modified resonance disruptor created a localized field that prevented telepathic communication. Through makeshift translation systems, Chen made an unprecedented discovery. The Overlord was terrified, not just of defeat, but of what the Hegemony Council would do when they learned a primitive species had not only resisted but inflicted significant losses. "You understand nothing of what you've done." Sealvorn's translated voice emerged from the interface. "The battle group you destroyed was merely an advance force. The Hegemony will not tolerate this insult." "Then they shouldn't have insulted us first," Chen replied coldly. "A world breaker comes," the alien continued, his translated voice carrying an unmistakable tremor. "A planet-killing dreadnought, already en route to your system. It will arrive within days." Chen leaned forward. "Tell me more about this world breaker." 20 kilometers in length, weapons that can render your sun unstable, crews numbering in the thousands. It has never failed to secure absolute victory. The alien's upper limbs trembled, whether from fear or rage. Chen couldn't tell. "The Council has authorized the use of restricted weapons. Your species will be erased from memory." In the medical bay, Dr. Kapoor analyzed the data they'd gathered from the Jokeri vessels. Despite his injuries, his eyes gleamed with the excitement of discovery. "Commander," he called as Chen entered, "I found something remarkable in their shield harmonics. The HFY technology. It's built on a fundamental misunderstanding of quantum mechanics. They've been following a technological path that optimized their natural abilities rather than transcending their limitations." Chen looked from the scientist to the data display, the implications dawning. "You're saying we can defeat this world breaker?" "I'm saying," Kapoor smiled through cracked lips, "we might be able to take it." News of the HFY defeat spread throughout the Orion Arm via quantum relays. For subjugated species across hundreds of worlds, the impossible had happened. The undefeated hegemony had suffered a major military setback against a species that had barely achieved interstellar travel. On the HFY homeworld, the ruling Council of Nine fell into unprecedented discord. High Lord Kelthax argued for immediate extermination of humanity, while Ancient One Zerma counseled caution. Any species capable of creating the NOVA technology might have other surprises. The deadlock was broken when intercepted communications revealed the humans were not preparing to surrender, but were instead rapidly distributing their newfound knowledge of HFY weaknesses to defensive outposts throughout their solar system. "We must make an example of them," Kelthax insisted, all 6 limbs extended in the formal posture of dominance. "Supreme Overlord Tazreen, you will take the World Breaker Eternal Dominion and reduce their planet to molten slag." Tazreen, the hegemony's most decorated military leader, transmitted his obedience, but privately harbored reservations. No species had ever damaged a HFY vessel before, let alone destroyed 3. This merited caution. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Chen, now Admiral Chen by emergency field promotion, led a desperate effort to reverse engineer captured HFY technology. Working with scientists from a dozen Earth nations in a hardened bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean, they made remarkable progress. The HFY achieved space travel nearly 4,000 years ago. Dr. Kapoor explained to the assembled military leaders, his arm in a sling but his mind as sharp as ever. But instead of questioning their fundamental understanding of physics, they simply built upon what they already knew. He projected a comparison of human and HFY quantum theories. They optimized their technology around their telepathic abilities rather than exploring alternatives. It's like they found a single path up the mountain and never bothered to look for others. Dr. Wong, still recovering from severe neural trauma, nodded agreement. Their minds are connected, they think as one. Revolutionary ideas don't emerge from consensus. They come from outliers, from those who see differently. The HFY don't have outliers. Earth's unified military forces, now aware that conventional resistance was futile, implemented Chen's audacious strategy. They would not try to defeat the world breaker. They would take it. They expect us to either surrender or make a last, desperate stand. Chen told the hastily assembled coalition of engineers, soldiers, and scientists. They cannot conceive of what we're planning because their minds don't work that way. On every screen across Earth, images of the approaching world breaker dreadnought appeared. A massive cathedral-like vessel nearly 20 kilometers in length, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Supreme Overlord, Tazreen's message was broadcast across all frequencies. Primitive humans, your resistance has been noted. Your punishment will be absolute. Surrender your leaders and prepare for integration as a Class D subject species or face extinction. Earth's response was silence. Every military vessel, every defense platform, every weapon apparently withdrawn to the planet's surface. Only civilian broadcasts continued. Families saying goodbye, religious services, music. To the HFY, it appeared as though humanity had collectively chosen death over subjugation. The world breaker moved into the inner solar system cautiously. Tazreen, suspicious of the lack of opposition, conducted exhaustive scans, but detected nothing beyond civilian structures and some primitive orbital platforms. The massive dreadnought approached Earth orbit methodically, its crew of thousands linked in telepathic communion, ready to execute their species' most devastating attack. What they couldn't detect were the thousands of microscopic devices, manufactured from the remains of the defeated Jokeri vessels, that now surrounded their ship like an invisible cloud. Created by Dr. Kapoor's team and launched by seemingly harmless civilian satellites, they awaited a single activation signal. The Worldbreaker moved into Earth orbit, preparing its primary weapon, a gravitational collapse device that would compress the planet's core until it imploded. Tazreen gave the order to fire. Nothing happened. The Worldbreaker's systems suddenly went dark, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows throughout its cavernous interior. Supreme Overlord, Tazreen felt something he had never experienced in centuries of military command. Panic. The telepathic network binding his crew together fragmented as thousands of microscopic devices, secretly attached to the hull by what the Jokeri had dismissed as debris and disabled satellites, activated simultaneously. These devices, based on the quantum resonance technology from the Defiant, created a localized field that not only disrupted the Jokeri telepathic network, but briefly allowed human consciousness to interface with their systems. What is happening? Tazreen demanded, all 6 limbs thrashing in confusion as the ship's controls stopped responding to telepathic commands. From thousands of locations across Earth, secured bunkers, university labs, hospital rooms, even home basements, humanity launched its unprecedented counterstrike. Admiral Chen, Dr. Kapoor, and hundreds of Earth's most brilliant minds engaged in direct neural interface with the Dreadnought's control systems through hastily assembled interface rigs. It was a battle not of weapons but of thought and will, the structured, hierarchical Jokeri consciousness against the creative chaos of human innovation. Within the virtual landscape of the ship's network, Tazreen found himself confronted by Chen's digital avatar, a phoenix wreathed in flame. "This is impossible," the Overlord transmitted, incredulous that a primitive species would dare to challenge a civilization that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. "You cannot comprehend our technology, let alone control it." Chen's response was simple: "We don't want to rule. We just refuse to be ruled." As the mental battle reached its climax, the captured Overlord Silvorn, now held in a secure facility beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, revealed the hegemony's greatest secret to his human interrogators. The Jokeri aren't the original architects of their technology. Millennia ago, we conquered an ancient, peaceful race called the Predecessors and built our empire on stolen innovation. We haven't truly invented anything new in over 2,000 years. We've merely refined and weaponized the work of others. This revelation, transmitted by Dr. Wong through the neural interface network to every connected human, was simultaneously broadcast through the Worldbreaker's own communication systems to every Jokeri aboard. The psychological impact was devastating. A species that defined itself by superiority suddenly confronted with evidence of their fundamental deception. In the confusion, Earth's forces secured control of critical systems throughout the Worldbreaker. Supreme Overlord Tazreen, rather than face the dishonor of defeat, activated a personal termination device, his consciousness dissolving into the fractured telepathic network. The remaining Jokeri commanders, their shared mental consensus shattered, offered unconditional surrender. 1 month later, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the captured Worldbreaker, renamed the UES Phoenix. The massive vessel, once an instrument of terror, had been repurposed as humanity's first true interstellar flagship. Behind her, a coalition of human officers and representatives from 7 formerly subjugated alien species prepared for a historic journey to the hegemony homeworld. "We carry not weapons of destruction," Chen addressed the assembled crew, "but terms for a new galactic order, one built on innovation and cooperation rather than dominance." As the massive ship activated its drive systems, Chen received a transmission from Earth. The reverse-engineered Jokeri star charts had revealed something extraordinary, evidence of an advanced civilization beyond the Orion Arm that even the hegemony feared to confront. Interesting timing. Chen remarked to Kapoor, who now served as her chief science officer. We've only just handled one alien threat, and there's already another on the horizon. That's the difference between us and the Jacquerie, Kapoor replied with a smile. They saw other civilizations and fought conquest. We see them and think, what can we learn? The Phoenix set course for Jacquerie Prime, its human crew already implementing modifications to make the ancient dreadnought faster, more efficient, and more powerful than its creators ever imagined possible. Because that's what humans do. They adapt, they innovate, and they refuse to be dominated. Humanity's first interstellar war had ended, but their role in the galaxy had just begun. END